Good afternoon, everyone. Today's webinar will begin in 3 minutes, promptly at 2 o'clock Eastern Time. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Migrating to the Cloud, Why, When, and How. I'm Emily Bull, Marketing Manager at DRI. Before we get started, I wanted to go over a few housekeeping items with everyone. All of you are muted as you enter the webinar. Today's presentation will be about 20 minutes. At the conclusion of the presentation, we will open the floor for 10 minutes for a live Q&A session. If you would like to ask a question, you may do so by typing and submitting it in the question tab of your webinar toolbar. You can submit a question at any time throughout the webinar. We'll also be recording this session and make that recording available to all of the registrants by emailing it following the live demonstration. Before we get into our Migrating to the Cloud webinar, I want to make everyone aware of our next webinar. 2 weeks from today, on Thursday, June 25th, we'll be joined by Infor Regional Vice President Jim Riley for a session on the future of Cloud Suite. Jim will take the time to discuss the Coke acquisition. He'll cover the Cloud Suite roadmap, the top benefits of the Infor Cloud, and he'll participate in a live Q&A session with our attendees. That's going to be a very informative session for all of DRI's customers, and we don't often get an Infor resource to help us out with our webinar, so we're really excited to have Jim on board. You can learn more and register for that webinar by visiting decision.com/events. I am pleased to introduce our presenter today. John Haddix is the Vice President of Professional Services at DRI. As Vice President of Professional Services, John is responsible for ensuring that our customers receive the advice and resources they need to meet their business system goals and to create long-term strategies that maximize their investment in those systems. Since joining DRI in 1999 as a business consultant, John has served in management capacities leading DRI's consulting, technical, and development teams. John oversees all customer engagements, ensuring that DRI's professional services staff provides clients with practical solutions that meet their goals and objectives. John holds an MBA and Master of Science in Information Systems Management from Duquesne University and an undergrad degree in Supply Chain Management. John is certified in several Infor products, including Cloud Suite Industrial ERP, and holds the PMP credential from the Project Management Institute. With that, John, take it away.
Emily, thank you for that introduction. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to everyone this afternoon about migrating to the Infor cloud. It's an exciting topic. I want to give you a little bit of information about DRI. I think most of you know who we are, but we've been Infor's leading partner in the cloud arena for the last couple of years. We were Cloud Partner of the Year in 2018, and Infor's leading partner in 2019 and again in 2020. We've been a business that's been focused on Cloud Suite Industrial, Sightline, SIMIX, SIMAN since the mid 1980s. And this is our 42nd year in business. We have the largest services team of any Infor partner. And I think some of that experience will be evident to you in this presentation. So we want to talk about why you would consider the Infor cloud. There's many different thoughts on this, but it can really be distilled into this core theme, which is cloud computing allows your company to focus its resources on what you do best and not on focusing efforts, attention, and resources in the ever increasingly complex IT world and ecosystem. There are many reasons why customers adopt cloud computing. Infor performed a survey a couple of years ago, and these were the results. Innovation, security, compliance, performance and scalability, UI and adoption, and a total cost of ownership perspective. So Infor invests significantly in new features. If you're on an older release, we have customers that are going through migrations in various different stages of their life cycle with Infor. Some have implemented back in the 1990s, some in the early 2000s, some more recently. If you're running SIMIX version 6, Sightline version 7, 8, or Cloud Suite Industrial in version 9, there have been hundreds and thousands of changes, new features, net new functionality that Infor has written. When you move to the Infor cloud, when you move to version 10, you get the single version features. So Infor will be releasing net new functionality, fixes on a regular cadence. So you'll be able to keep to keep up to date, faster, in a more readily available environment than if you stick with traditional on-prem deployment strategies. Infor spends a lot of attention. They treat security of your data very seriously. They comply with industry best practices. They have a partnership with AWS. Infor's cloud computing platform is AWS based. It's far likely much more secure than the majority of companies that have on-prem installations. That's extremely important in this environment. Performance and scalability are also very important. As customers add new sites, they buy new businesses, ordering new hardware, standing up new sites in CSI. Those are common IT functions. They can take weeks, they can take months. In the Infor cloud, that's handled for you. Servers and disk space and computing power are all scaled as you grow the business. Infor has a team called Hook and Loop. You've probably heard of them before, but they've been chartered with developing a common and leading user experience interface across all of Infor's products and technologies. Moving to the Infor cloud allows you to get their best, latest, and greatest. So when you're on the Infor cloud, you're certainly going to have their showcase work. You'll notice that. I don't know how many of you had an opportunity to see the prior webinar in this series, but we did demonstrate Cloud Suite Industrial version 10 within the multi-tenant context. A lot of things that you'll see there with the Infor operating services, look and feel, extend through the Cloud Suite industrial user experience. Total cost of ownership is a major reason as well to consider the cloud. We'll talk more about this in subsequent slides, but it's clear there are many different sources that cite this. Cloud computing is very likely to cost you less than maintaining a traditional on-premise deployment. Let's talk about some cloud myths. We talk about the reasons people adopt. We often, hear a bunch of objections, and it's good to throw those out there early and to address those. We often hear customers that have questions related to, hey, I can't move because I've got a ton of customizations and modifications made to my current system. And they've heard you can't add fields, you can't have custom tables, I have to live with Infor reporting as it comes, and that couldn't be further from the truth. You can move to the cloud if you're highly customized. There are ways that we can perform those different development tasks and activities. They're different in the cloud. Some are the same, but some are different. And there are solutions to each requirement. Anything we were able to do on-prem, we can do in the cloud. Cloud Suite Industrial, based on the Mongoose toolset, is highly extensible. Infor OS, highly extensible. We'll talk more about that as we go too. But this is also a great time as you move to the cloud to consider, hey, how can we knock out the customizations that we've done in the past? Infor has a tremendous amount of new functionality that's been added to the product over the years. If you're on version 8, if you're on version 7, an early version of 9, you'll recognize that just by the features documentation that they have. They've spent a lot of R&D time within the core ERP product over the years. Another common myth is, I'm going to pay a lot more than if I was staying on-prem. And if you're someone who implemented and is running a version that you implemented in, let's say, 1995, that's probably true. But if you're on a more recent release of 8 or 9, it's probably not true. Infor has a program now that they've put together rather recently that will make sense in almost every case for you to consider moving to the cloud. So they'll look at your maintenance and support spend and be able to put a program together for you that will provide you a lower total cost of ownership over a 3 to 5 year period. We'll talk more about that. With the cloud, I can't migrate with third-party products. We do hear that as well. But just know you can. Infor Operating Services has components to it that are built for those purposes. So Ion, the web services, other technologies involved with Mongoose are all tools that you can use to integrate with third-party products. We'll talk more about any specific questions you have, but we do a lot with these type of things. Another myth is with Infor's release schedule, I'm in essence upgrading each month. And no, Infor does publish monthly releases, but those are non-invasive. They're operating system level changes. They're applying security patches, doing different features related to the environment and technical infrastructure. CSI, Cloud Suite Industrial or Sightline, new features are now user controlled that you turn on within the application itself. So that's part of version 10, and we take advantage of that in the multi-tenant cloud environment. On a monthly basis, you do go through and finish a form synchronization process, but Infor takes it probably 85 to 90% of the way, and you just go in and confirm and adjudicate if there's any situations where an Infor change has stepped upon something that you have done. That's a very simple process. Infor is a very, very experienced cloud computing company. They have 71 million cloud users that log into their applications each day and over 9,500 different cloud customers. I mentioned that they're Amazon based. Amazon is the leader among the leaders of cloud computing. You can read this chart as fast as I can talk about it, but it's important to note that AWS does have tremendous experience in scalability and security. They provide high availability and disaster recovery services when needed as well. Infor's multi-tenant applications come with a service level availability of 99.7%. That's typically measured as a monthly percentage of the scheduled available minutes. Should a problem arise in a data center, Infor and AWS have methodologies and systems in place that traffic gets routed to other server farms, they get routed to other data centers so that availability and continuity exists. Auto scaling, all of those things are handled by the solution. It's not something you need to spend time worrying about. We often get questions related to, well, what do I, as a customer, need to consider, and what does Infor do for me? And that's the focus of this slide. Infor is a true SaaS solution, and traditionally, as an on-prem deployment, you will have to maintain the application and patches that get applied and releases that Infor puts out. You're maintaining SQL Server and your database and backups and log file maintenance and all of those good things that you do. You're working through the OS. You're making sure that you have enough storage and that disk space is optimized and that the disks are performing well. Infor handles all of that. So in this slide, Infor is handling all of the things that are in red, primarily on the right-hand side. Your responsibility is working with the data. So you'll be the ones entering data, and Infor will be the ones taking care of the rest of the technical environment for you. Infor has a multi-tiered model in which they're monitoring, identifying issues, analyzing what those issues are, and then acting upon them. So they have automated different functional integration and regression tests that are run at different stages throughout the development lifecycle, throughout the monthly release lifecycle. Infor uses these products to ensure the user experience is performing well, that the application itself is performing well, that there aren't operating system issues, that the infrastructure is performing well. Infor deploys a tool known as the Infor Testing as a Service application to literally put CSI through thousands of different use case tests at these different milestones of releases being pushed out, monthly updates being pushed out as well. So they have service health monitoring, they have tools to help them patch and maintain the OS, and related functions with the monthly update processes. Infor employs different types of technologies to help automate things. For example, the monthly rollout and the moving of environments and new releases are all scripted and fully automated. One thing that's worth discussing is the value that you get as an Infor customer from the multi-tenant cloud bundle. As an on-prem customer, you would have bought many of the products in the Infor solution in an a la carte fashion. Infor's bundled that and really provided a tremendous amount of value in that bundle. So I won't talk through each of these items one by one, but I will highlight that you receive the full Infor operating services product. That includes Infor document management, the Mingle home pages. You receive Ion and Burst for cloud suites. You can leverage Coleman AI. There's an additional fee for Coleman. But within CSI, you're receiving the service management module. You're receiving the finite APS capability. You get all of the CSI quality control modules, all 4 of them, instead of buying them a la carte. So by moving to the cloud, you have a larger tool set and palette to work from, to solve business needs, that can drive a lot of value to you as well. There are some add-on products that are commonly licensed. Factory Track, forecasting are two of the big ones. Infor Campus is another big one, the configure, price, and quote tool. Factory Track is a bit different. When you move to the multi-tenant cloud, you're no longer licensing Factory Track by the specific module. You have shop floor, you have warehouse mobility, and you have time track, and you just allocate users among that. There's value in that as well. One of the great hidden nuggets of the Infor multi-tenant cloud solution, people really focus on the software side, is a tool called the implementation accelerators. So this was back a couple of slides ago. I skipped over it because we've got a couple of things here to position. The implementation accelerators were developed by Infor to document predefined best practices of business processes to help you rapidly deploy new functionality, train new employees. It's a tremendously valuable tool to help you cross-train your user community and those type of things. There's different types and levels of process documentation. That last slide showed the footprint. This slide now shows a bit more of the detail that they go into. So level 1, level 2, level 3, and level 4 process maps and documentation are all part of this tool set. Everybody who's a licensed multi-tenant user has the ability to leverage these implementation accelerators. It's part of that bundle for you. The IAs, as they're abbreviated, give you different functional overviews. They review key capabilities of each functional area, talk about different processes, provide diagrams, define important terms, and depict important processes for you. You can license a user to be able to manipulate and update these. That's not part of the bundle, but it's an adder. The bundle does give you the ability to use these right out of the box, and they're very solid and well thought out Infor best practices. So transitioning to, hey, how do I get to the cloud? We'll talk about this for a couple of minutes as well. But you move to the cloud, not terribly dissimilarly to how a regular upgrade project works. We just shift the work from being done at your site to do the upgrades to a process where DRI does the migrations on servers that we host, and then we help with the uplifting of your database to the cloud. So at a real high level, we develop a business case and look at the total cost of ownership, get a decision made to move forward. Then we plan, work with you to streamline your data. It's a great time to use the purge history archiving utilities to make some of the tables less bulky than they need to be. We'll perform the upgrade and the uplift to the multi-tenant cloud. It's DRI's role to work with the Infor cloud operations team. They take that database that's been upgraded, scan it, scrub it, look for anything that shouldn't be in there, and attach it to your environment in the multi-tenant cloud. Then your project team goes through the typical education, learning, piloting aspects, and user training aspects of an upgrade project for a successful go live. I mentioned that the first activity is developing a cloud strategy and business case, and that's where DRI can help as well. So we can help you identify areas in your organization that would benefit from a cloud deployment, whether it's the IT benefits that we looked at, the reduced security risks that we looked at, the ability to adopt new releases faster than if you were on-prem, new functionality that's been added over the years. Those are things that we can help you understand, and then put that into a model that helps the economic justification. So typical cost components of an upgrade are infrastructure related, buying the hardware, buying SQL Server, buying VMware, buying the OS, costs for an upgrade and a service provider like DRI, resource costs for IT team members that need to keep an on-prem model going, and maintenance that you pay to Infor are all common cost components. We'll work with you to get a subscription price that makes sense. We'll work with you to look at those costs and put together, this is just a quick example of what a total cost of ownership model may look like, and then help you sell that to others in your organization. In many ways, a move to the cloud is just your last traditional upgrade project. The same project planning that goes into an upgrade that went into an initial implementation occurs in a migration. Training on new features, the upgrading of your database, all of those good things. There are some technical differences, and that's worth exploring with you as well. DRI has all of the necessary software for the process to move you from, whether you're on Cymix, running Unix, we can install the old versions of Progress and get you from point A to point B. There's no version that's too old to consider moving to the cloud. We do that. We have our own virtual environments that we take your data, take it through those migration utilities, prepare it in a way that cloud operations can accept it. For example, if you're multi-site, multi-database, we need to upgrade you and then consolidate those to a single database. And that database needs to be in the latest and greatest monthly build cycle to match what the Infor cloud needs. So things that aren't allowed are custom stored procedures, triggers, and views that you've written, non-compliant third-party products like DocTrack and ShopTrack. I think most of you know those fell out of the Infor program a number of years ago now. Infor has replacement products. For DocTrack, it's Infor Document Management. That's part of the base bundle. And for ShopTrack, that's most often FactoryTrack. What is allowed is you can have completely custom tables. You can have user-defined fields, the UETs. You can have your own XGens. There's some more detail here. They have to comply to Infor standards, but we can help you with that. You can have the compliant third-party products like AvidTax and credit card interface. From a timing standpoint, the cloud projects take about the same amount of time as a traditional upgrade project. So if you're moving from a relatively recent version, this is a couple of months. It's a small handful of months. If you're moving from version 8, it's maybe a 6-month project. If you're moving from something much older, it can be 6 to 8 months. The determination of timing is really related to the extent that you want to change your business to take advantage of net new functionality and the amount of customization that you've had. Also, your project team's availability. There are certain windows that we need to work with Infor. They have 3 different teams that handle these migrations. So we meet with those teams, we work with those teams, and we'll be able to schedule the initial uplifts for piloting and training purposes, and then the uplifts for your go live is just another one of the services we need to consider and provide for you as well. So that's a quick overview of the journey to the cloud. Emily, I'll throw it to you now. We can certainly discuss any questions. As we do that, DRI is very experienced. We have over 30 customers in the Infor multi-tenant cloud. A handful of those have gone from on-prem through the migration process, and we expect that to be a key area of growth as more and more companies see the benefits of cloud computing and decide to invest along those lines.
Excellent. Thank you, John. I know that's quite a bit of information in a short period of time. So if you have questions, we have just a couple minutes remaining. If you want to submit your question, you can do so by typing and submitting it in the question toolbar of your webinar toolbar. So we did get 2 questions so far, John, so I'll pass those off to you. Our first question comes from Jake, who asks, can I have multiple pilot environments in the cloud?
Yep, that's a great question. So Infor does supply you with 3 different environments: a PRD, which is your live environment, a TRN TST for training and piloting purposes, and just a generic bicycle database. You get that with 2 terabytes worth of storage. The next question is 2 terabytes enough? It almost always is. We've never encountered someone that's been live and has needed more than 2 terabytes of space. When your on-prem database is moved to the cloud, it's moved into that TRN TST environment. You pilot there, and then your final migration is moved into the PRD environment. And then, of course, once you're live, a regular thing that Infor can do for you is copy live to pilot, or in this case, PRD to TRN, so that you can do training and piloting and continuous improvement in that environment separate from your live environment. So hopefully that answered that question.
I think so. We do have one more question, and it looks like we're almost out of time, so that'll probably be our last question. Amanda asks, how secure is my data in the Infor cloud?
Yeah, that's a great question. Infor uses what they describe as a defense in depth strategy. It has multiple layers of overlapping security protocols. Infor has a dedicated security team with a chief security officer that oversees setting the standards for security. You can expect Infor to do all of the leading things related to security that you'd expect. So they conform to ITAR, GDPR, FedRAMP, and NIST standards. In fact, Infor was recognized as a champion organization by the National Cybersecurity Alliance just here in the last year. So if you've got a need for even more security than most, Infor does have a GovCloud offering. So if you do work with the Defense Department or do some things that need that extra layer of security, probably don't have enough time to go into GovCloud now, but we can follow up with you on Infor's GovCloud. In fact, I'll mention this. There's a website, trust.infor.com. So just trust.infor.com is a great place to learn about security and Infor's approach and the things that they do and the standards that they follow.
Excellent. So that appears to be all of our time today. If you did submit a question and we didn't have a chance to answer it today during the live webinar, we will be following up with those questions via email in a few moments here. As a final reminder, before we wrap up today, our next webinar, The Future of Cloud Suite with Infor's Jim Riley, will take place 2 weeks from today. You can register for that webinar by visiting decision.com/events. Thanks to everyone. Thank you, John. Stay healthy, stay safe. We'll see you guys at the next webinar.
Thanks, everyone.